Hi, I'm Andy. Welcome to Firefly Tiny Homes for another in our series of documenting our personal tiny house build. This is a large 2-bedroom, single-level tiny house that we will be living in while we build an expanded shop and a new house on a property fairly nearby. And there's been a couple of videos in this series already. If you haven't been following along, I encourage you to go watch those about the foundation trailer, the floor system, and then a full floor plan tour at the rough-in stage. We just finished insulating, so I thought I would pick up the camera and show you a few details before we start putting drywall on the long walls and wood on the short walls and the ceilings. And I don't know exactly what's going to be included in this video. Probably some of the drywall system and stuff like that. I'll discuss why we have started to use drywall when we didn't originally and why we feel comfortable with that when maybe you didn't think drywall could be used in tiny homes. I'll get into that maybe a little bit later. But let me just turn the camera around and show you a few details about the insulation that we use these days. You can see that we have gone to Rockwool bats of insulation in all of our cavity fill. We used to do spray foam, but it was getting hard to schedule. We've started to move pretty fast with our builds, and sometimes the spray foam crews were responsive and I could get them to show up, very quickly, and sometimes I couldn't. And so that was getting to be a little bit of a headache. Plus, we had some clients that just, had questions about spray foam. And the only reason that we had been using spray foam was because I didn't want to do a ventilated roof. And anytime you use bats of insulation where that water vapor can go through, you must have ventilation to allow that water vapor, that air to escape and not condense and cause mold and rot issues under the sheathing, because the sheathing gets cold, and when that water vapor hits it, it condenses and causes all sorts of problems. To avoid that, we put an inch of polyiso, that's about our 6.5 or so, on the top of our sheathing, which keeps the sheathing warm and keeps that water vapor from condensing on the sheathing and can just simply dissipate and move throughout the structure, which that's the way it works in all homes. I just didn't want to have this really hard to ventilate in a 2x6 cavity. I mean, some builders do it. I just don't trust it. So we have gone to that exterior installation and Rockwool bats, and it allows us to move at our own pace. We control the installation and the timing, and a lot of clients just like Rockwool better than spray foam. I'm on the fence. I think spray foam is a fine product if installed properly, but you know what? There's just a lot of advantages to Rockwool, and so we've just gone that way. We've got our 23 bats in the ceiling, 5.5 inches thick, plus that our 6.5-ish on the exterior, which that's more than equivalent of our 30 bats of insulation, or our 30, like loose fill, like that's pretty standard in our area here. I know up north we go way more. When we were in Michigan, we'd go more than that, but we feel pretty great about our 30 with an inch of solid continuous insulation on the outside. We think that's really good for a tiny house and performs wonderfully and is better than I think most of the tiny houses you'll find out there. Anyways, that's the ceiling. In the walls, we have our 15 Rockwool bats. They are just really nice and easy to cut and shape around electrical boxes. Tend to run my wires in convenient places. So Rockwool bats are 47 inches. So in the kitchen, I keep those wires at 47 inches. It goes really fast and it's just really consistent. Then the wires kind of fit in between the bats. Here's another instance where, I've got this, this duct here is a 3-inch duct for the shower fan, extractor fan. I've got some insulation packed above that So this is 3 inches. It's in a 5.5 inch cavity. I've got about 2.5 inches of Rockwool above that, but then I'm able to then shape the bats. It's just really nice. It's just really hard to do with fiberglass, I have found. And it was one of the nice advantages of spray foam is they just fill in, like I just cover up those things and they just spray it and fill it. And that was a big advantage of spray foam, but Rockwool works pretty well for that too. Another detail that we like to do is anytime a partition wall meets the outside wall, if we can avoid, decreasing the insulation too much, these 3/4 inch subfloor blocks that we put in with pocket hole screws, they don't really, I don't have to change the insulation. It just kind of packs it in there a little bit better, doesn't change it too much, and allows for there's something there for us to attach drywall to, and the walls stay nice and sturdy. All right, I haven't gotten to, of course, we'll, all along the edges of windows before they stick the jams in here, we'll do one round of high density, spray foam sealant. Foam sealant there, and then once we get the jams in there, I go back and then fill it completely so that cavity is completely full of spray foam sealant, the window foam dealio. Okay, I think that about covers it for the installation video. I'm going to go ahead and install before we get to doing drywall, which I'll show you that process, but I'm going to install the shower system, which we already have the pan in because we had to fill that with water and test it at the rough plumbing stage to make sure all the plumbing underneath the trailer was properly fitted and had no leaks. And the rest of this shower system, it's Sterling, which is a Kohler company. It's a 3-panel system that provides lots of storage in the corners. You've probably seen it on some of our videos before, but I'm going to show you as it goes in maybe, and just talk a little bit about why we really like it. There are others. We've done other things. We've done full tile showers, and those are all great, but this goes in fast, and it is, I think, just a really good mix of looks good, but also is just completely maintenance free. There's zero caulk in this installation, which means there's no, place for mold and mildew to grow. So I'll show you that process here in just a sec. So this is the shower base, similar to a lot of other shower bases, but it has, just like a lot of other systems, it has the notches built in, so it's really easy to align the back wall, which I'll take you out and show in just a second, and then the side walls, and the side walls really latch into the back wall, and it has drainage lines kind of built into all the panels, including this little weep cavity here, so any moisture that does kind of get behind there just drains in and out and to the drainage hole. And I also like this little nose here. I've installed a lot of showers, and many don't have, some do, some don't. I like this because when we put the shower doors on there, it's just not as critical that shower door base gets, silicone to the hilt. Any moisture that, works its way under there is not going to come dribbling out. It's just going to go back. So I do like this system. Let me take you out and show you the back wall before I put it in place. It's a pretty bulky package because the back wall has the corners included in it. Has kind of a step here, and then spots for shelves or baskets or other holders and things like that. You can change the accessories that snap in there. It's pretty cool. So it comes packaged really well. The only damage I've ever had is things that poke through, like in trucks and something like that, poke through the cardboard and damage. Otherwise, these corners and these kind of rigid blocks and things like that do a really good job, which a lot of other systems, it's like a real crapshoot whether or not it gets to you in usable condition. So you can see kind of the tabs that fit into those slots in the base, and that about covers it. I'm gonna turn the camera off, put this back wall in, and I'll show you what that looks like. So it's as simple as that. You just lift it into place. It's not that heavy. Make sure those bottom tabs fit inside the pockets, the holes that are there to receive them. Make sure it's, if your space is, I mean, I've learned just the showers in general, it's very important. Keep your shower walls nice and plumb and square and all that kind of stuff, and you won't run into problems. If you don't do that, then it can get very tricky. But other than that, just make sure, since I've checked and double checked, these go in real fast these days, but I like to pre-drill my holes. I just get nervous about, that fiberglass and cracking, and I guess it's acrylic, I don't know. But, and then I use just some stainless steel pan head screws. I feel like that holds this in place really well. Just attach it to the studs. And the next step is the sidewalls, which have tabs that fit in, they go in and then down and fit all the way around there. And some tabs that go in this center as well. And just the way that this sort of corner is, it's actually a little, obviously, if you look, you can see the seam, but it doesn't stand out because of the way that the corner and the accessories end up going in. It looks pretty good. And this side, obviously, we've got to drill a hole for the shower handle, and I'll see if I can show you that. So here is one of the side walls. I already put the other one in. We'll show that when we're in there next time, but this is the one that has to get a hole drilled for the shower valve and faucet handle, and it's always a little bit nervy because you don't want to mess up, right? So the nice thing about this is you always know where I measure from the back wall, how much exactly from the back wall once it's installed, and that is this side. So these notches and this slat, they fit into the back wall. So I know I'm measuring from there, and I put my tape on this side, which is actually, if you measure the thickness of the shower, that's 1/8 of an inch. So I measured 8 3/4 from the back wall to the center of the shower valve. And I know that I need to subtract 1/8 of an inch because I'm putting my tape measure against this here. Now they do show a valve like center line, and that's just to kind of, give you something to go by. But my valves, I like to keep it just a little bit more in line with the drain, which puts it a little here, and in my experience shows that it's still fine. You see they've got these like kind of corners here, which give you a general idea of stay within that that box, and it's pretty big, so you do have a little bit of a leeway. But I try to stick pretty close to this. I don't know if you can see that, but it says valve center. I try to stick pretty close in there, and then 37 3/8 up from the base, the shower base, which you can hook your tape. This is going to sit right on the shower base, so I can hook my tape on there and come to here, and I just make my mark. Now, just, make sure you're doing the right wall. That's why I installed the other wall first, to make sure I've got the right one, the correct one, not right or left, but the correct one before you drill your hole. And, well, you know what? I'm just going to take it. Hopefully this is helpful. I don't know. It's going to probably get a little long, but let me take you in here and show you what we have to do. Now, I have to make sure that the hole is obviously big enough for this shower valve, but I also need access to these screw holes here. And that is whatever your valve is. This is a Delta universal, shower valve that you can put any sort of cartridge in. They make lots of different types. And let me measure this real quick. I can't remember, but I think it's around 2.5 to 3 inches. let's see if I can show you. Yeah, you know, like a 3.5 inch hole saw is gonna do it for us. And my, you know, the face plate on the shower valve faucet handle is much bigger than that, so you know you're fine. But just so you know, just make sure you have access to those screws, because that's what holds the face trim of the shower faucet handle on. And you can see I already have this wall in, so I know that I am working on the correct shower wall, since it gets a little confusing. So I'm drilling from the back, and I'll show you that now. All right, just so it's clear what I was talking about. This is a 3.5 inch hole saw. I'm gonna make that slowly and carefully. I'm gonna make that hole. And this is the face plate trim, the face trim for my shower faucet, which comes with the valve cartridge and anything. I tend to use Delta. It's just what I'm used to. You get used to something. I like the universal valve, you know, body that goes in at rough in. It just works well for me. Your mileage may vary. You can choose whatever you want, but these are the holes for the long screws that go back in and attach this to the rough in valve body. So that's what's coming up. All right, it can be hard to line up a hole saw like that, especially on something that's slippery and really flat. The edge of the drill can kind of slip around a little bit, so I like to drill a little pilot hole first. Now you could also do this in stages. You could, you know, you could take this. Don't drill too big. You know, just you could take this and fit it if you're really nervous and kind of like see from behind. Am I lined up? You can also readjust those valve bodies a little bit on the where it's mounted. You know, if you're using PEX, anyways. If you've sweated copper, it's probably not going to work for you. But I've done this a bunch of times, pretty confident. But if you're not, it might be worth just taking this in there and just make sure you got it before you commit to the bigger hole. All right, here we go. All right, so you can see it's really fine dust, fiberglass, acrylic, or whatever. I don't think I want that in my lungs. That's why I put the mask on. You know, like I kind of like using a hole saw that's not like brand new. It doesn't like it, like those kind of like they like dig in so quickly to this fiberglass. So I start out nice and slow and get that, and then I ramp up the speed and I just kind of rock it around a little bit, let it work its way through. That works for me. Anyways, hope this helps. All right, there we are. Now I haven't screwed these sidewalls in just yet. I'll attach these, fasten them into the studs up there and down along this side. And you might wonder, this is just a 1.5 inch wall partition here that we will put a solid glue up wood panel across here that I attach, you know, a cleat here, attach that, and that just absolutely stiffens that right up and allows kind of for the rest of this area to be open. I've tried putting, you know, like a support pole all the way up into the ceiling. It just didn't seem worth it. Once I tried putting like a 16-inch shelf across here to anchor this wall, it just stiffened it right up, and that's just the way we go these days. And of course this does, I'm, you know, itching for every, you know, every 1/4 inch of space I'm trying to, you know, maintain and preserve inside tiny houses. So there is trim that's going to go here and wrap around. So I leave this wall a little short so that the trim doesn't pad the wall out, you know, needlessly more, because I'm always trying to preserve space in tiny homes. So this gets attached, and then trim comes and wraps around and covers this flange as well. All right, there you go. You can see how it flares out here and here, and the baskets and shelves kind of like they sort of like clip in there, and it just all looks so, you know, purposeful, and yet it still looks, I think, very, very nice for its price range and for its maintenance-free nature. We just really like them. I know not everyone, you know, we get lots of requests for tile showers, and we'll do them. You know, they just take a lot of time on to do them right and to do them so that they won't crack on tiny houses. And we've done them, and we don't have problems doing them. But also, you know, tile grout and caulk and all that sorts of things, it is something you have to keep up with and maintain. And these showers look nice. They're very reasonable in cost. They go in, they install quickly, which helps, you know, to be a great value. And we think they look pretty good for all that mix of benefits. There's not many downsides. We like them a lot. So see you in the next one.